Hello and welcome to the August edition of Coffee with the Pastors. My name is Pastor Daniel Hanson. I am here today with Pastor Dan Gerrietts and Pastor Beverly Butler, and we are so excited to share a beverage with you today and talk a little bit about Trinity's life and mission. So we invite you to grab your favorite beverage and join us for the conversation today. Well, happy almost end of summer. There's still a few more gasping days that we can enjoy before school starts. I have to admit at home I'm trying not to use the school word because that's willing a future into the present that hasn't quite come yet. But happy summer. How have your summers been so far?
Good, fast. Yeah, but it's been good. It's been nice. It hasn't been that hot this summer here in North Iowa. I've appreciated that.
Absolutely.
The family visited last week, and I was very glad to have them. They live in other states, and we had some good time together and visited our aunt and uncle in Decorah as well. And very glad to have the good weather for that too.
Awesome. Great time to spend some time with family. Do you have a highlight, Pastor Dan, from your summer or?
Well, here at church, my highlight has been our two new staff members. I think we are just thrilled to have welcomed Pastor Beverly and Danny Vogel to our team here in July, right? Gosh, it's been almost 2 months already. Hard to believe. But that's certainly been a highlight here. I think for me personally is just a couple of chances to get away with family. None of them have been long trips, but I got to celebrate my sister's 50th birthday with a whole slew of her friends
Mm.
in Des Moines, and we did a little camping as a family. Yeah, just getting out, getting away has been probably the highlights of the summer here. Getting our oldest ready to go off to college, so which is coming up real soon here. So.
Are you ready for that?
Oh, I think as ready as we're going to be, right? I mean, I think it's a big change. It certainly is for her. It will be for us too. But I think, yeah, she's ready to go and she's going to do great. So we're excited for her and for that change.
Awesome. Pastor Beverly, you had some family come this summer. Other highlights or highlights from that week or?
Well, I think the starting at Trinity was a highlight for me too, July 1st. I'm still working at the hospital 20 hours a week, so this is a small position, but it's filling up lots of good time. 15 hours a week as pastor of spiritual care is the title. And what does that mean, you might ask? Well, I'm just kind of moving into it and figuring it out as we go.
Well, we're going to explore that question a little bit later on in our time together today, exploring a little bit of your story and also what your role is on staff. As I say, this is a little different than what we've had before in terms of being 15 hours a week, but figuring that all out, and we're 2 months into the figuring that out. So as with many things, we continue to figure out as we go. But we'll explore that in a bit.
God. What about for you? What's your highlight for the summer?
Yeah, it's been a great summer. We have had a great chance to spend time with friends and family. We have I tease it's the Micah tour, but the Micah tour has mostly come to Mason City, which has been great. So we've had a lot of college friends, seminary friends, other friends be able to come visit and spend some time with us this summer, and then also lots of good family time. That part has been great. And then the New Orleans trip was awesome. ELCA Youth Gathering was at the end of July, an amazing week of faith formation and time together in New Orleans. It was hot. It was muggy. New Orleans gave us the finest it could give us for a third week of July for weather, but just a really extraordinary event. We had a great group of young people, great group of adult leaders, and I'm still on the high from that experience. And we joined 16,000 of our closest friends. So it was a party in New Orleans, and New Orleans knows how to party. So we got to join that fun, and yeah, it was good. It was lots of great speakers, and we got to check out alligators. And I learned that alligators eat marshmallows. So I learned a lot of things about Jesus and God along the trip. But my other fun fact was that alligators eat marshmallows. So we got to do some exploring at the beach and of the bayou, but then also getting to explore a little bit who God has created us to be. That was our theme for the week. And so, yeah, so stay tuned. We're going to have some presentations later on in September about that. So excited for our youth to share their experiences with the congregation.
Nice.
But speaking of that, we are just around the corner from September. And so as August turns into September, that means Rally Sunday is coming soon. So our schedule will be changing and fall programming starting soon. So Pastor Dan, would you like to share just a little bit about what's coming around the corner here as we flip from fall or from summer into fall here at Trinity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to remind everybody, longtime folks, and especially newer people or people that are just kind of getting to know our community of faith. A big shift in worship happens, as you said, every September and every May. We do this outdoor worship schedule from Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend. So that means that the weekend after Labor Day, this year, Sunday falls on September 8th, we switch our worship schedule. 9 o'clock becomes indoor traditional. 10:30 becomes the contemporary that's also indoor. Sometimes we have some Sundays that are beautiful in September, and it's sad that we have to come inside. Sometimes we have some weather that's already in early September is not that great for being outside. So we've just always done it that way, Memorial Day through Labor Day. So September 8th is the big switch. It also is Rally Sunday, where we have the ministry fair, kind of in the gathering space. A lot of ministries from Trinity and partners in the community set up booths, and they have information and giveaways and candy and that kind of stuff. There's oftentimes ice cream from Bird Souls. I think that's going to happen again.
It is going to happen, yes.
Yeah. And then people can just kind of have that chance to reconnect and see again a good slice of kind of what we do together as a congregation. So that all happens between services and around services on Sunday the 8th. And then Sunday school this year is starting up on the 8th as well. So if you've got little ones at home or kids at home, that's the day that kicks back up. And we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing the last year, having those that want to attend 9 o'clock with their families. They do that, and then we're going to do something with the kids in the first 15 minutes and then send them off over to the education wing. So that all starts on September 8th also. And then that Wednesday, the 11th of September, is when Wednesday Night Alive begins. Wednesday Night Alive is all the activities, education for all ages, fellowship, meal, all of that starts on September 11th. The meal begins at 6 or 5:45, I think it is. And then 6:30 is when all the programming starts. It's confirmation, Trinity Choir, some adult education offerings that are being put out here now, as well as activities for kids of all ages. So that's an hour, 6:30 to 7:30. Really, yeah, just kind of the startup to a lot of those kind of things happens here in the next few weeks.
That's exciting. You can start to feel the buzz as the things are being planned, and things are coming back to life after having a bit of a pause over the summer. So lots to look forward to. Check out your announcements and other e-news as more information will be coming about all those things and the different offerings, and confirmation starting soon. It's youth group starting soon. It's all in the works. So that's exciting. Well, today we want to chat with Pastor Beverly and hear a little bit of your story today. So we are excited to have you on staff here, and many of you have gotten to meet Pastor Beverly in worship, but maybe just chat for a few minutes. But we would love to just ask you a few questions today to allow you to share a little bit of your story, a little bit of how you became you, and then also how God called you to be here serving among us at Trinity. So I thought I just kick off our question and find out where is it that you grew up, and a little bit about growing up.
I grew up in Panama City, Panama. My parents were missionaries, and that's where all my sister and brother and I were raised. And then after I graduated, I came to college in Alabama. My dad was originally from Alabama. My mom originally from Iowa. Both grew up on farms, and both those farms are still in the family. So I had the joy when we would visit, we would come and we would stay for sometimes a month or more with grandparents when we would come from Panama for the furlough year. Every 4 years, my folks had a furlough year in the States. So they got to do some additional studying, and then we all went back to Panama. So that was growing up, and college in Alabama, and then seminary in Georgia, in Atlanta, Candler School of Theology. Then I served churches, United Methodist churches in Iowa. And then I felt God's leading to work with folks senior age, older adults. And I went to upstate New York to work as a nursing home chaplain, nursing home and retirement home, and a United Methodist facility there. That was part-time, and then I served at church part-time as well. So they're in the beautiful hills of upstate New York. After that, I moved to Pennsylvania for an appointment there at a church, and then that was when I was listening for God's call to come out to Iowa, or at least that's how I discerned it, to follow the dream of sheep, as I call it, because early on, my grandmother had sheep on the farm in Iowa, and I loved to when I visit, do chores with her, be around sheep, and that had always been with me, that maybe someday I would raise sheep. So I was getting close to age 50. I decided I better start working on that, and that brought me out here.
Well, I think you win the award amongst us for as childhood living spot farthest away from Mason City. I think we would have to add ours together several times. That had to be really interesting growing up, not in the United States.
Yeah,
like
big city, big busy city. Yeah.
But very international city, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Were your parents Methodist missionaries?
Yes, they were.
They were. So that's the tradition you really grew up in.
I did. Yep.
Yeah.
Steeped in United Methodist.
Yeah. And you still take care of real sheep as well.
I have 3 left from my original flock of 7. They are now 13 years old, so that's getting up there for sheep. And the llama, who is a guard llama to protect them from coyotes, she's 19, so she's also getting up there.
And do you shear them yourself? Do you have other people do that?
I hire it done. Yes, I watched it done before I moved to Iowa, and I said to myself, I will hire it done. And the man who shears for me calls them wild sheep. They're Navajo churro, which is not the usual Iowa sheep, and he calls them wild. They challenge him. He has to grab them. I mean, I enclose them in a small area, and then he has to get hold of them and then hang on to them while he's shearing them. So yeah.
How often do they need a haircut? Is it
twice a year actually for this breed of sheep, because it's a long-haired breed, not particularly curly, and if it goes a year, we let it go 1 year, a whole year, and it was really tough, so he said you'd rather do it twice a year.
Okay.
The llama gets sheared once a year.
Okay. Interesting.
And besides that, there are cats. There are currently 6 cats and 4 kittens. Anybody who would like a sweet little kitten? The mama just showed them to me last week for the first time, and they are very playful and very wild right now.
Well, who knew when you came to coffee with the pastors today that you might have the opportunity to have kittens? So contact Pastor Beverly if you need. What color kittens are they?
One is orange and white. One is white with gray spots, and 2 are gray and various shades of gray.
Okay. Very good. So they could be your pets with 1 phone call away. Very good. Well, outside the sheep and the farm animals, what are some of your favorite hobbies and other things that you like to do in your spare time?
Spare time?
Or maybe there's not a lot of spare time on top of being a chaplain, a pastor, and caring for our farm friends.
Yes, I do enjoy knitting. I am not I don't make like things like sweaters. I knit straight objects. I like to knit with cotton to make cotton dishcloths, and I like to use the sheep's wool and make shawls. Just something that's just straight and easy like that. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy foraging for wild edibles, including stinging nettles, which I've been pulling out the first couple of years I lived there. Get rid of these stinging nettles. Of course, with my gloves on, I'd pull them out. And then I listened to a speaker who talked about wild edibles, and I thought, well, free food right here. So I've been harvesting. I cook them up, and I even freeze enough to get me partway through winter. Lamb's quarters is another favorite, and purslane. I like that as well.
Wow.
So those are 3 wild edibles that I enjoy. So a hobby, I guess, gardening a little bit. It would be an embarrassment to most gardeners to call what I do gardening, but I do get something from it.
Well, talk about a little bit your call here. You know, I know that this is a very new kind of call in many ways, and talk a little bit about how that unfolded from your perspective and what led you to say yes, ultimately, to come and serve as a part of the life and people at Trinity.
Well, the timing was just perfect because I had been serving United Methodist churches in the vicinity outside of Mason City, and I'd been there 9.5 years, and I felt like it was time for, not that I wanted to leave the people, but I felt it was time for a transition for the churches. So I had already decided that, and I didn't necessarily have a plan for the other part that was left after the hospital. But then, and I was aware there was an opening, but then I was approached to think about it, and my Trinity's felt like home for at least 9 years. I've been coming to Trinity during the weekdays for programming. I've been coming to the Center in Prayer and the Lectio Divina. I got involved in the Healing Touch group that Becky, parish nurse, leads, and so I'm in and out of Trinity all the time. And so, like, okay, well, I already know a lot of these people. Not that I know a lot of the people on a Sunday morning or a Saturday night, but already knew quite a few of the staff because of my coming in and out. So it felt like a natural fit, a really good fit. And I've really been welcomed so warmly. It's felt wonderful. Been great. So timing and just knowing already that it was a good place to be.
It was an interesting process from our side. You know, I mean, we have these full communion agreements, and I don't even know if most people in the pews even are aware of these, but the ELCA and a number of other denominations, as a lot, especially mainline denominations, have worked hard, right, in recent decades to make it possible for pastors to exchange pulpit and table, you know, to be able to preach and to be able to preside over the sacraments in churches. And there was some work theologically done to kind of come to mutual agreements between some of the smaller differences that we have between these traditions. And one of the churches, the LCA, has done this with fairly recently, actually. It wasn't that long ago. It was the United Methodist Church. And fascinating, right, how this then plays out in practical life, right? Like what does it allow? It allows a pastor like you who knows a congregation and feels a sense of call there to come in to serve without having to go back to seminary or, you know, pass a bunch of classes and jump through all these other hoops. So it was a fascinating process for us. I know we have had some pastors from other traditions that have become a part of our staff at Trinity years ago and in the past, but there's often been more hoops to jump through, whereas this was a little bit easier. It seemed, at least from our perspective. We hope it was for you as well.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
And you and the synod leaders made it really very easy to transition, to make that transition.
Yeah. I just think that's worth celebrating and highlighting. And the greater partnership, right, that comes from that, the sense of that we are really one church in a lot of ways together.
It was really when I started coming to different events that Trinity offered that I was pleasantly surprised. I thought, oh, there's life outside the United Methodist Church. And not like I really thought about it before, but it was all of a sudden opened a whole lot of new horizons. And that was like 9 years ago. I was like, oh, and it's so wonderful because there are so many of activities are ecumenical. And long before this, I partnered with Becky for a prayer shawl event to gather folks from all area denominations and even outside of Mason City to come together, enjoy fellowship, get to know each other, And we're doing that again, this coming month, September the 24th. And that'll be coming out in the newsletter too, at 9:30 in the morning. And so, you know, we'd already been doing that. And we both, I think the whole staff, right? It just enjoys having a place where people can come and belong at whatever level they want to, without any kind of pressure to become Lutheran or to become a member of Trinity. Just come partake in different opportunities and you know, go on back to your own churches. It's great. So I just feel that's the way that Jesus is calling us to be, is to let go of some of these divisions and share.
Well, especially for this time, right? When churches are changing in a lot of places, and in a lot of places, I think at least, well, probably really all over, a lot of churches we don't have the capacity that we once did. And so the chance that we could partner and share more becomes even more important, right? That we find ways to serve people's spiritual needs and help them experience God's mercy and grace and presence in their life, whether it's in my congregation or another congregation. It's kind of keeping the real mission and goal forefront, right? And trying to break loose a little bit of the institutional anxiety about, are we going to survive? We need more people. We need more you know, that we need kind of narrative. That's really nice to hear. I celebrate that too.
One, as we said earlier, in addition to serving here at Trinity, you're continuing to serve in your role as a chaplain at Mercy North, Iowa. Could you share a little bit about what is that call and work look like? I mean, some people may say, I think I know what a hospital chaplain is, but unless you've experienced one, you know, what are you up to in that work?
Sure. So I'm half-time, 20 hours a week. My 2 full-time days are Friday and Saturday from 7:30 to 4, and Monday afternoons, my little part day. And so we take requests for visits. Those they come, not always so frequently. When a patient's admitted, the staff is to ask them would they like a visit from a spiritual care chaplain. The question doesn't always get asked. That's why it's so important, if you have a loved one in the hospital, or if you're in the hospital yourself, that you call the church office and let us know, because that depends on how you're entering the hospital. If it's an emergency situation, the person doesn't often not able to answer, and they kind of get lost in the shuffle there. So sometimes we're asked to visit. And if we don't have a number of people being asked to visit, we call them cold calls. We just take our list and we start visiting, particularly on those who haven't yet had a chaplain visit, which is really a whole lot, because we're a small staff and we cannot visit everybody anyway. But we'll start off and just walk into a room, and if the person's available, introduce ourselves and see if they'd like to talk. And then often, if they have a home congregation, then we ask if we could, if they'd like us to call their pastor and let them know that that they're in the hospital and they can come visit. So now then, we're also available for any traumas, emergencies like that. And that, fortunately, that's not a lot of the time, I guess I should say. Having done my training in a large inner city hospital in Atlanta, it was you know, it's a lot more frequent there, but that happens here, you know. Car accidents and heart attacks, etc. And so we're there for the families, particularly in those situations.
Well, I think that's how I first got to know you when I came here to Mason City, was your voice on calling us to share that there was a member who had requested a visit from Trinity, right? As the chaplain, passing along that message, and what important work that is to, and what a special time to be able to connect with folks.
It really is, and it's just so meaningful. Not every visit, of course, but so many times I'm inspired by patients and their faith, and I hope that, you know, I'm there for them in a way that can be useful. But there's so many folks who don't have a church home. They grew up in a church, long since have since been active long time before, and yet their faith is alive. And I'm just more and more aware of how many people out there are not coming into the building of the churches. How can we reach them where they are, in whatever way we can, and be a partner on their journey of faith.
Awesome.
Well, it really matches well with your call here, right? Talk a little bit about your sense. I mean, I know you said in some ways you're figuring it out still, but talk about your sense of what your call is within our staff and within our congregation, if you would.
Pastor spiritual care, the way I understand it, is to offer bereavement support, to be there for folks on their journey of life, particularly as we all get older. It's not the same position that Pastor Dan had or Pastor Kathy Graves, because things had to shift during the time when you had no pastor in this position, and so some of those duties have been shifted over to Becky, our parish nurse. So my 15 hours are spread trying to be there for the folks who may be needing a pastoral visit most at certain points in their life, and you know, as available as I can be. As I say, it's kind of unfolding because I'm not just sure. We're not going to shift away and take those. We have a wonderful care team here who goes out and visits the folks who are unable to get out to church, and we're not taking that away from them. It's so important to have folks involved. So, so we'll see. Maybe you can tell me more, Dan.
No, I think you described it really well. You know, I think, and already the way that you're supporting funeral ministry, that's obviously a piece that goes with as you visit folks, particularly folks who are having health crisis or later on in life, that becomes a natural as you build relationships, and the overlap with the hospital, that you're really become a key person in our hospital visitation team. It's something that we all kind of share in some ways, but that's become a wonderful blessing too, to have your gifts and your skills and your being there too, to overlap with us. No, I think you described it very well. And like all part-time ministry, right? I always think the trick with part-time ministry is really keeping it part-time. And yours is a full-time collectively, but to try to keep it marked, it's very hard sometimes to draw those lines, but you've done it really well so far. And yeah,
good to be here. Really good to be here.
Yeah.
Well, we are glad that you are here. So yeah, well, we hope that folks, if you haven't met Pastor Beverly yet, that you take the opportunity to introduce yourself. I will say, having been here 2 years, it's really helpful if you share your name more than once, because there are a lot of names to learn and try to keep track. So if you can share your name multiple times, that's very helpful to new faces here, whether they're on staff or whether they are other new folks in the congregation. But Pastor Beverly, we are glad that you are here. We are excited to see how God is going to work through you in your ministry here, and see where that leads us in the future ahead, because it's the changing seasons, and but we know God goes with us. So good. Well, next time we'll need our pumpkin spice lattes because it'll officially be September. But I think we made it through this month without that. Are you pumpkin people?
Yeah, I know Beverly is.
I like pumpkin pie,
Okay.
but I'm not one for lattes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm not huge on the pumpkin spice either. I just feel like it's a little much sometimes, but I know for some people, like this is
serious
October
season.
becomes high time, for the pumpkin spice flavor.
I am not one of those people, but I will agree on the pumpkin pie that
Yes.
But great. Well, thank you, Pastor Beverly, for sharing just a little bit of your story today, and we will be excited to get to hear more from you in the weeks ahead as you're up in the pulpit and as we continue our ministry together. So
Fellowship Coffee starts in September, and I'm speaking for Fellowship Coffee. So
yes, what day is that? That'll be September
17th, Tuesday the 17th.
Okay, so if you want to
9:30.
hear more of Pastor Beverly's story, come 9:30 on September 17th for Fellowship Coffee in the Fellowship Hall. It would be great to hear even more of the story. So this is the teaser, right, for that to get people interested. Great. Well, thanks for everyone's time today. We look forward to connecting with everyone next month. But until then, may God's blessings go with you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you later.